What is going on, guys, and welcome to the video. So I am currently in British Columbia, Canada. If you guys didn't already know, I do go back and forth between Canada and Florida because my boyfriend's Canadian. But today we are going to be talking about none other than food, which is my favorite thing to talk about. But more specifically, we're going to be talking about peri-workout nutrition, or the meals that directly surround your weight training or your workout. And just so you guys know, this video is going to be geared more towards physique athletes or people who are interested in building muscle, and it's not going to be geared towards people who are endurance athletes. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're watching the video. So I'm going to be showing you some examples of some pre-workout meals as well as an example of a post-workout meal. And I'm going to be talking about the three macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats, and how those play a role in muscle hypertrophy. I do have a lot to cover, so with that being said, let's just jump into it. So my first example of a pre-workout meal is good old protein oats, which is great because it's delicious and it's easy to make. It's also really high volume, which is really important to me to feel satisfied as someone who intermittent fasts, because this is the meal that breaks my fast. This is simply just a half a cup of instant oats, made with way more boiling water than you think you need, because when you do add a scoop of protein, it gets real thick real fast. I'm using one of my favorite PEScience Select Protein flavors, strawberry cheesecake, and Select Protein is actually a whey casein blend, so it has a mix of slow and fast digesting protein. I've topped it with raspberries for some extra micros, and 2 tablespoons of walnuts for texture and fats. Total macros for this meal are 33 grams of carbs, 13 grams of fat, and 31 grams of protein. Next meal is another pre-workout meal example for those who like savory foods, but it has a bit of sweetness on the side. This meal is also higher calorie than the previous one for those who have more macros to play with. I've prepared a turkey, egg, and cheese English muffin sandwich with a side of sliced apples and a spoonful of crunchy peanut butter to dip the apples, or let's be real, just eat off the spoon. I toasted the English muffin and cooked the egg over easy so I could still have a runny yolk, and I added the turkey for more protein and cheese for a bit of protein and fat. Apples and English muffin serve as the carb source, and fats from the peanut butter make this a balanced and very satisfying meal. Total macros for this meal are 63 carb, 20 fat, and 24 protein. Before I show you a post-workout meal example, I first want to discuss the importance of protein, carbs, and fats in the food you eat surrounding your workout. And let's start with protein, because protein, of course, is the most important in terms of building muscle. So with what our research shows, having a bolus of about 20 to 25 grams of quality protein an hour before your training can provide a sufficient anti-catabolic concentration of amino acids to last you until your post-workout meal. A 2006 study by Tipton et al. Showed that just 20 grams of whey ingested before a training session elevated muscular amino acid levels 4.4 times base level and did not return to baseline for 3 hours post-exercise. So basically all this means is that you don't have to speed home from the gym to have a shake or a meal immediately after your workout. However, there are a couple of exceptions, of course. If you train fasted or it's been a very long time since your last protein-rich meal, then having protein soon after your workout is going to be more important. I think a solid practical takeaway was summarized in a 2013 systematic review by Aragon and Schoenfeld, which states a relatively fail-safe general guideline that reflects the current evidence showing a maximal acute anabolic effect of about 20 to 40 grams of protein pre and post exercise meals should not be separated by more than approximately 3 to 4 hours. But a case can be made for lengthening the interval to 5 to 6 hours. So bottom line, for maximum results, you don't want to have your pre and post workout protein separated by more than 3 to 5 hours. Next, let's talk carbs. So carbohydrate supplementation pre and post workout has been a gold standard recommendation for athletes for many years. It's even in the International Society of Sports Nutrition recommendations to have aggressive carbohydrate refeeding. But I think context is extremely important for who these recommendations are really for. And I am by no means saying that carbs pre and post workout is not important. We know 80% of ATP, which is the cell's energy, is derived from glycolysis, and performance and recovery are negatively affected without proper muscle glycogen repletion. But the risk of impaired performance and recovery is substantially lower if you are not doing bouts of super highly intensive workouts and you are just the average gym goer. Now, there is a time that even your average gym goer should be more mindful of eating carbs around training, and that is when your pre-workout meal is your first meal of the day, as you will be more glycogen depleted if you are in a caloric deficit, like when you're dieting, or if you work out multiple times a day. So if you're fasted, currently dieting, or doing multiple workouts in one day, then I'd recommend having carbs pre and post workout to make sure your performance and recovery isn't compromised. But if this doesn't apply to you, then glycogen repletion shouldn't be a problem, because research shows high intensity resistance training with moderate volume, 6 to 9 sets per muscle group, has only been shown to reduce glycogen stores by 36 to 39%, which could be easily replenished before your next training session and doesn't have to be replenished immediately after you train, just as long as you have carbs at some point again before your next workout. However, I do think it's safe to say that this is totally personal preference. And for me personally, I think my workouts are always better if I do have carbs in my pre-workout meal, which you saw in my meal examples. Now, as far as fats go, this is actually super simple, because for muscle building, improving performance, and recovery, fats don't play a huge role here. So having a lot of fat before or after a training session is the least important of the macronutrients. Therefore, this is also another personal preference. For me personally, it depends on whether I'm dieting or not. When I'm cutting, I usually save the bulk of my fats for a late night snack, because I'm a nighttime snacker, so I don't use them as much in my peri-workout meals. However, when I'm not cutting, I like to include fats in my meals because I personally find balanced mixed meals are more satisfying and I just feel better when I train. So finally, onto my post-workout meal example. So here I made a barbecue chicken wrap with a side of sweet potatoes and steamed broccoli. I started with chopping and cooking the sweet potato in the air fryer because it takes about 20 minutes to cook. I also sprayed it with some cooking spray and topped it with some cinnamon. To make the wrap, I just cubed chicken breast with some sweet onion. I cooked the onion a bit first before adding the chicken. And then I added some barbecue seasoning. I used a high protein, lower carb wrap that I found at Walmart and laid down a slice of Monterey Jack cheese before adding the hot chicken and onions so the cheese can melt. Then I topped it with a tablespoon of barbecue sauce, chopped pineapple, and lettuce, and then just rolled it up. And of course, I added some steamed broccoli on the side because, you know, health. Total macros for this meal are 73 carb, 9 fat, and 42 grams of protein. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope that this video gave you some ideas on how to structure your nutrition pre and post training. If you did enjoy the video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you happen to be new, I'd love to have you in the family. And right here, I'm going to be putting my last full day of eating if you are interested in more meal ideas, because you have a full day in that video. But I love you guys so much, and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye.